Hi, this video for practice tips for parents is going to be all about listening. So listening is probably the easiest thing we can do to help our kids learn, and it's also the one that most people forget about the most. We have two kinds of listening. We have passive and we have active listening. So passive listening is just anything in the background. It could be our Suzuki recordings, but it could also be any music. All listening is good for development. It's good to get it in the brain. It's good to get it into our system. How does beat work? How does rhythm work? I'm going to talk a little more about what I call active listening. And I find active listening has even more benefits directly related to helping kids learn the music they're trying to learn. Active listening is when you are actively listening. I also think that like all things Suzuki, we have this sort of covert and overt learning that we do. And I think one of the important sort of life skills with listening is the ability to actually listen, which is a skill that we have to hone and develop over time. I will say that I think our Suzuki kids are already amazing listeners, and at the concerts that we just did in the spring, they were phenomenally respectful, phenomenally good listeners to their peers and friends. So let's talk about the most beginning level of listening. You're kind of developing focus. You're kind of developing the ability to sit still or stand still, depending on your instrument. So one of the ways that I like to do active listening in the very beginning is maybe you're just listening to those first 6 twinkle variations, and maybe you're cuddling with your child. So your listening can just feel like a bonding moment, and that's a great thing. It probably takes about 10 minutes or so, maybe less. As you develop and your child's able to do a little more, maybe you hold your instrument while you're listening. Maybe if you have a bow, maybe you hold a bow while you're listening. Then the next level up, maybe you're holding both things while you're listening. You can also listen and sing along. You can also listen and pretend to bow, or you can listen and finger, where you're kind of fingering the right finger that you would use to play the instrument. As we go further and kids are in the books officially and maybe they're note reading, active listening is going to be different. You might actually be looking at the music while you're listening. Now your kiddo might not be looking at the music when they're learning the piece, but when they're listening they can do that. And that mimics a lot of how we learn to read books and words, things like that, where a child might shadow what is being read before they're really reading independently. So maybe you're going to help them track, because the muscles in our eyes that track notes take a while to develop. You can also listen and sing again at this level. That's incredibly helpful, super important. You can pretend to bow, you can pretend to finger, all of those things. The other thing I want to point out is that I think sometimes people think that if you listen to the piece you're trying to learn one time or once a week, or in the group class only, that's enough. And of course, all listening is great, all listening is helpful, but the more you listen specifically and intently to the piece that you're trying to learn, the faster your child will learn that. The faster your child will make a map of it in their brain, and the easier it will be for them. It will just come out of them. So you can listen to the working piece just over and over and over again, until you lose your mind or they lose their mind. No, just kidding. But then it gets easier, and that is exciting and motivating. Now let's quickly talk about those advanced kids who are, listening for different things at this point. They should not be just listening to one recording, because we're not listening to copy. We're listening to learn the language of music. And that's different. And with these more advanced kids, they should be learning to listen critically. So when they're listening to something, what did they like? And what didn't they like? And what are they unsure of? So they should be listening to lots of different performances of the same piece, but listening again, thoughtfully, intentionally, and in a way that builds on all the other things that they've done before. So I hope this has inspired you. If you're not sure how to listen or what kinds of things you should be listening to, let us know. But I hope you find this video helpful and inspiring. Thanks.